when you talk to a company and they're trying to pick between, Rob Gronkowski or Des Linden, and they're selling, I don't know, like a watch, a wearable. It's like Gronkowski's audience is massive, no doubt about it. He could probably move a ton, but like he, not a lot of people are looking on Sunday going, oh, I need that product for my football, right? It's like, yeah, the wearable I'm wearing is something that you can take and use for your own performance, your own running. But not only is it that, it's your own health and wellness, and that running journey can be whatever you want.
And welcome back. We have Des Linden joining on Long Run Labs today. Des, thanks so much for taking some time to chat.
Thanks for having me. It should be fun.
Of course. We have not done a podcast on For the Long Run, and we'll have to have a separate conversation on the running side of Des. But yeah, stoked to dive into the business side of things with you and understand the evolution of you as an athlete and podcaster and growing media empire. And yeah, stoked to dive in.
Yeah, I feel like it's been interesting to see these conversations happen more frequently and just hear different inputs and experiences. Happy to share mine, but I just think it's a great service that a lot of podcasters and writers are providing now, because without this stuff out there, I feel like a lot of folks are just really lost. So thanks for what you're doing.
Yeah, of course. It's fun to obviously to listen to other podcasts and get feedback from people who say like, oh, I really resonated with what you guys talked about, or that. I did a conversation with Kristen Rawls, who I listened to on the Second Nature podcast, and I messaged Aaron and Christian afterwards. I was like, I got so much value from, like, it was so beneficial, and it's just cool to think of like the impact that a single conversation can have, and like the doors it can open, or the thoughts and conversations it can start either internally or with other people too. So it's a privilege to have a platform to dive into it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I always start with a really tough question, and that question is, who is Des?
Who is Des? Distance runner, dog lover, coffee drinker, traveler. Yeah, I mean, I think I'm not anything, one identity, like one word that describes it. So I guess if I were going to sum it all up, I would say Des is a master of none, but a knower of many things.
You're a curious person too, right?
Yeah, definitely. I feel like learning is something that I'm always trying to do, and that's probably where the problem is. I don't have the focus to be like, oh, I want to be an expert in. I'm a dabbler, because so many things I'm like, oh, this is fascinating. I just want to dive in.
But you've created a world and life for yourself where, I mean, many people would argue you are a master at your craft, and there are a lot of things that you can also dabble in beyond that. Has that been who you've been for your whole life, or has that been an evolution of the last few years? You've been kind of more curious about other things.
I think I've had the time to be curious and the opportunity, because I got, to a place in my career where it was safe and comfortable and predictable. I think, in college, coming out of college, it was sort of survival. So I had to be very one-dimensional and just an athlete, training, focusing. But even as you move down that path, you realize, okay, this is a very short-term thing. It's not sustainable. So how do you, think a little bit bigger, and how do you buy the runway to do this for longer? And then all of a sudden you see all these different avenues that connect back to the sport. But you start to see, the running industry a little broader, and then sports and business, and it kind of just rolls out from there. And then you get curious about all those different parts of it.
When did you start seeing those different avenues opening up for you?
I think I was aware of it pretty early in my professional career, just the structure of the professional team, how the brand partnered with that. I think the running shops, the Hanson's running shops, were kind of attached to that. So like seeing that structure was like, oh, okay, there's a lot of moving parts here. And then I think I became very aware of it in 2011. I was runner up in Boston, and there was all these different opportunities, but also at the same time, it's like okay, all of these are coming in. There's obviously something valuable here. And a lot of people are reaching out to grab some of that value. Who are these people? Why is this valuable? How does that come back to me? You're doing all these things for everyone else, but at the same time, it's like, okay, like how do I fit into this picture?
So you really started with that in 2011. That was 15 years ago. What's similar and what's different in 2026 versus when you dove in uh, 15 years ago?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, just learning the game was like the most important thing. I was just pretty new and unaware at the time. So it was, building relationships, meeting the right people, having conversations, and really just learning it all. I think I still, again, have that curiosity now. So it's not that different, but I also have like folks that I would go to now that I could, say, this is a reliable person who's going to help me. Um, or they can connect me with the person who will help me figure this out. And so I've built relationships that I think are super valuable, and with people that I really trust and have had like good mentors along the way.
Ultimately, it's all a relationship game, right?
Hmm.
When did you stop thinking of yourself as quote unquote just an athlete with sponsors and start thinking of yourself more as media, business? Was there like a specific point in time? Was it launching the podcast? Was it as you were thinking about moving away from competitive road running? Like where did that when did that evolution occur?
Yeah, I think it kind of. I feel really lucky because my career developed pretty slowly or at a reasonable pace. Like every next step made sense, and it was like a little bit of a bump in what I was doing, and there was a little bit more asks and a little bit more travel and a little bit more all the different things, but it was never an overwhelming like, wow, this is a different world completely and I don't know how to handle it or manage it. So, it was I learned different parts of the game along the way. I think um after winning Boston, it was very different. Like there was just new opportunities, different opportunities. And then I think, renegotiating my primary sponsorship with Brooks after that, I think, but when I think it was probably 2020 when that deal was up, and kind of putting in the piece of chief running advisor with Brooks was like, okay, now now's the time to start thinking about long term, and it's not just athletic performances. Um, and I think taking the weight of trying to win a major off was a big part of that, and getting that done in 18 was like, okay, I can totally flip the switch here and not feel like this is a distraction. And so I'm very fortunate to have gotten that win in 18 and then be able to make the pivot at that. It was just like great time in my career to have that happen, because I could balance more things and also be forward looking for, um, you know, things that were off the road, off the track.
That day in 18 was awesome. I was out in Newton watching you fly by
Nice.
at the arc around like mile 19, where it starts right before the Johnny Kelly Hill. And wow, that was a wet day. But as that unfolded for you, what were the most surprising pieces that came out of all this attention and the brands that wanted your time and your kudos and your affirmations on social media?
Yeah, I'm trying to think. It feels like so long ago now. I guess again, it's kind of like having that little glimpse in 11 and then making Olympic teams and like having little exposures. It so wasn't anything super crazy. Um, watching my manager at the time, agent at the time, Josh Cox, manage like the media piece was really fascinating. Like I think in hindsight, for people to understand the PR piece for those moments where you can get the max advantage and exposure of it, I would offer a lot of different advice than maybe what we had in play. But I think everyone did their absolute best, in the moment. So that was interesting to watch unfold, and also just to see how the different entities are kind of like firing against each other to get exclusives or the first, and it's like two morning shows trying to undercut each other to make sure they got you and you didn't go to the other one. So it was an interesting thing to kind of watch unfold. Yeah, in terms of like the places it reached, I'm probably unaware of like what some of the bigger ones were. um yeah, nothing crazy surprising on that front, I guess.
You mentioned the contract extension with Brooks. I've talked with Kara about her extension through, I believe, 28 or something like that. Um, you're both not competing on the roads anymore, and you're still competing, but Kara's, competing for 19-minute 5Ks, which is it's been fascinating running with her and watching her rework her goals and be excited about running, 13 miles like she's been doing recently.
Yeah.
Um, what do you think has made it possible for both of you to continue this substantial relationship with Brooks post competitive road running, which is where they both there's been a lot of focus, not all of their focus on the roads, but like what have you done and what should people be hearing about, if they're a pro athlete listening and wanting to kind of cement their future, what were the things both intentional and unintentional that have put you in this position separate from the wins, the Olympics, etc.?
Yeah, I think it's an interesting thing because Kara and I's stories are very different, which, she could tell you hers, and I think it would be a much different trajectory. But it's an
Right.
interesting thing in that there are multiple ways to kind of create this relationship and bring value to a brand. I think for me, what sets me apart is that it's just the loyalty. The first brand I signed with them in 2005, I believe, and have really gone through the ups and downs with the brand. And we had our moments where renegotiations were, tough, and everyone's kind of fighting for their own interests. And you could say like, oh, you know what, this doesn't make sense anymore. I want to take a bigger check, or I want this opportunity, or whatever it is. But we had the hard conversations and really kind of committed to each other several times over the years, 4 to 5 year contracts, and you renegotiate them. And so I think that there's just been this loyalty with the brand. And I think that's the people, that's the products, and that's them committing to me before, I had done a single thing on the roads and given me a chance. And so, yeah, that relationship's really strong. And in that process, I've seen what the brand's really about, the values, where they want to go, and also just being able to give them feedback on things that I see, outside of the Brooks space in running, but also now I'm doing things with Boston Marathon and, TCS and all these different entities. And it's like, oh, these are things that work. These are things that could make sense for you. This is the next big interesting thing in the industry. So it's taking learnings and insights about other parts of the industry and bringing them back. And I think that's valuable for the brand and also other athletes that are kind of going through it. So,
Kara mentioned to me one of the components of the success of Brooks is around the youth athletes and the youth side of the sport. What, if any, piece do you play in that role, and why do you think that's driving such an impact for Brooks?
yeah, I mean, I think that's definitely Kara's bigger focus. I know they do the PR meets, which is amazing. They do community impact, like a lot of the athletes will get a chance to give a grant and go back to their high school or a program that's kind of underfunded or underprivileged kids and give them products, go run with them. And I think it's just catching people at that young age and again creating that loyalty. But also so many kids are introduced into running and it's like, oh, you messed up the drill, go run a lap. And it's
Right.
immediately like, this is the punishment, like, running was the punishment. Or you remember that, like, I don't know if they do it now, but like the presidential fitness test, like, I
Yep.
hated the mile. That was terrible.
Yeah.
So we have those like core memories of running being this miserable thing. And so I think if you can get there early, get there first, and create an experience that's fun and memorable and exciting, then you can change, how a generation really thinks about running.
What's the legacy that you're wanting to leave in running? What are you building towards?
Um, I don't really believe in legacy. I think, I'm just kind of in the moment doing what I enjoy, doing what I love. It's why I'm still competing. It's why I'm dabbling on the trail. Like, I think, you know, appreciating that I can still run far, that I can run moderately fast, like those things are what keeps me in it. And that's, I'm sharing those stories and hopefully they resonate with someone. And when they stop resonating, I think Brooks will go, okay, that's probably when we part ways, and that's fine. And I'll
Yeah.
probably still keep doing what I do because I actually just love it. So, not super worried about like, oh, I was remembered for. I think that's like hands off some value to observance or the observers or the fans, and like I don't. You can think whatever you want to think. That's okay, but I'm just doing it for the reasons that I do it, which is I just really love running. So
The trail exploration has been fun to watch. It's clear you're doing it on your own agenda, and you're picking events and races that challenge you, whether it's running, a half dozen days through the desert or doing a couple of marathons back to back and pacing and drinking beers during it. What's guiding the like how are you picking these races beyond like it sounds fun? Like
yeah,
is there a specific angle of trail and ultra that you're curious about? Is it a desire to race Western states? Like where are you orienting the focus?
I think this year, I mean, coming off of a long road career, it was just let's have fun. Let's do things that seem interesting, that take the pressure off of let me compare myself or I have to be at this level. Um, and also kind of prep me for the mental part of going back to the majors and being a bit of a spectator or participant, but in wave one. I
Yep.
felt like I had to do something big before I went to Boston this year, and I don't mean big and interesting or exciting, but something that would take my legs away from me so that I couldn't go in and be like, "Oh, you know what I would have placed was," or "I bet you I would have," like that's silly. And I think it's something that it's hard not to do after having run that race so many times. Um, so MDS was just like, that's what I want to focus on. It's so different. You're preparing with a heavy pack, you're running on sand, you're running in heat. So I had to train totally differently. And thus, it wasn't like a comparison game of, okay, I'm going to go in wave one and see what I could have done. Like that goes out the window. So that was part of it, but also just really having fun. That's a race that is always I've always been intrigued by, and I was like, I want to get that on the list as soon as possible. I do think there's a little marketing nugget in there where you're like, well, this just would be really interesting. This is great storytelling. Like you're gonna get phenomenal pictures, and people are gonna go like, wow, how like I want to hear about this. I want to participate in this. Like I want to see this. So that was a little part of it. It wasn't a driving force, but I think this year, kind of at the end of that, and I think the bigger target will be figuring out if I have what it takes to get to a Western states.
I was talking with Kat Bradley about this yesterday, and I mentioned her name because she's won the race before, and
Yeah.
so that gives credibility to the statement she made, which was it was really cool to see Molly come in and not podium, but still get a ticket, right?
Yeah.
Like she came in fourth,
Yeah.
and it would have said a very different thing about the sport if Molly came in and blew everyone out of the water and won by a substantial margin. Like she got her butt kicked, but also kicked ass
Hmm.
and like recovered on a tough course. So I'm curious your take on that and like the level of competition we're seeing in women's running and trail running and ultra running and how you're thinking about the evolution of what does it take to be competitive at something that's 2 to 10 times as long as what you've raced before.
Yeah, I that's a really great way to put it. I love what Kat said because it shows that trail running is for real and like it's not, oh, if so and so moved up, they would dominate right away. Like you get out in those
Right.
courses, you get out in those conditions, and you have to be a specialist to thrive, And I think we did see Molly switch. She was very specifically leaving the roads and getting into trail, and she teed up her whole build for that race, and so it was cool to see her go all in. But it was also a reminder of like, hey, this was one of the best marathoners. Um, of her era, and she's not just going to run away with these things. Like you have to specialize and you have to commit and you have to put in the time, which I think for her she's going to have a great career and she'll probably move up through the ranks and be fighting for podiums if not wins in these races. I think for myself, I'm in my 40s. I'm doing this block where I'm going to have fun with it. I think my expectations can be quite a bit different just because um, this is the tail end of my career, and it's really a lot about having fun, even though I love to be competitive. And I'm going to train hard. I'm going to specialize for as long as my body will let me. But the reality is, like, it's just a really quickly moving sport. It's getting better, and the odds are stacked against me to have that type of success, you know? Um, but that's okay. I still think it'd be fun to compete.
Is it hard to reconcile that? And the reason I ask is I think that's an extremely relatable conversation, right? There are a lot of people who are 40, 50, 60, and they're not running as fast as they used to. And they still want to figure out how to reframe a self challenge or competing with themselves. Is that something that you're struggling with?
I don't think so. I thought it would be harder, and I think the last couple years in the marathon, it was a challenge where you're like, I think I can do this one more thing. I think I still have this in me. I think I have a
Yeah.
224, and you're just kind of banging your head against the wall. And I think I could have run 226s for the next 3 to 4 years. You know, like, I know what the
Yeah.
training looks like. I know exactly, like, you know, it became really predictable, and as long as you don't get too far away from it or get into a big injury, 228, 226, I think I could have just stayed right within that space. But the challenge for me, and I think that trail takes this away, but the challenge is like, is it worth my time to keep doing that? And then you're hoping for something a little bit better, and then you have that next thing. It's like, okay, well, next time, and I can tweak this, and this, and it'll change, and then maybe we'll get it. I love what Jake Riley said when he was wrapping up I think it was his trials, where he was kind of deciding if he was going to continue a sport or not. It was the 2020 trials. And he's like, no more next times. Like, this is it. I either make the team or I'm moving on with my professional life in a different arena. And I think when we put that pressure on ourselves, like, sometimes if you have that performance in you, like, you can kind of scrape it out in that moment. Cause you're like, I'm not trying to take any learnings. There's no holding back. And so I feel like that's kind of what I did with my last Boston, where it's like, I have to put a stop on this, like a hard stop, and give myself the opportunity to dig as deep as possible. Otherwise, it's just, well, next time, and you get the same results and the same results. And that's the frustrating part. I think even more so than knowing that you're aging and seeing the decline, because that's pretty normal, right? Like, I think I can wrap my
Right.
mind around that, but it's sort of the like the drug of hope that you'll see that next step or you'll have that one last big race. That part's pretty tough.
If you'll indulge me for one more question on the like running side of
Yeah.
things before we switch to the media, as someone who loves Boston, I've run it 3 times. I used to live at mile 24.2 on the course, and every Saturday long run would be out there. What's your favorite stretch of that course?
I honestly love the Newton Hills. I just feel like that's where it really gets real. You know, you make that right-hand turn, the crowds get a little bit bigger. You're in the hard part of the course. Back in the day, that's when people used to come back. Like, you could look up and be like, okay, I see like 4 bodies to chase down. Like, I'm hunting, you know,
And now the super shoes push that to mile 22.
if you're lucky, right? Yeah. So
Yeah.
I always like that stretch. And like, I just think it's such a great blend of, like, you're in this small town and the road's pretty close, but you have all these people, and it's like a small town feel, but it's a big city marathon. And I feel like it really meets at that moment. Like, just the way the houses look. Yeah. Like the trees, it's wood, like it's green. It doesn't feel like New York or Chicago. Feels like you're in a small town environment, but it's like got a big city, very important marathon feel to it.
What's your least favorite part of that course?
I think it's the stretch into Lower Newton Falls. It's like really the
Yeah.
first challenge on the course, and there's always a water bottle station. I mean, they're in the same spot every year. So the water bottle stations, there's always a move, and you're carrying your stupid water bottle going up this massive hill, and someone makes a dumb move, and you're like, no, it's way too early for this. And they get totally strung out, and you're like, okay, I'm getting dropped. But then you get to the Newton Hills towards the middle, and you're like, okay, there they are. They're all coming back.
Yeah, my least favorite spot is the stretch over the highway. It's like
Yeah,
right near where you're talking about. Nobody ever talks about that really awful spot.
yeah.
So thanks for talking about it.
We're on the same page.
Yeah. Okay, switching over to the media and business side of things. I love non-endemic partnerships. I know you love non-endemic partnerships. I've seen some really fun partnerships that you've launched, or some really like I've messaged you on Instagram after you posted something. Like, damn, that was like really smart. Like the Band-Aid one for MDS. Like, what a perfect alignment
Right.
for for something like that. What was the first non-endemic deal that you did that worked really well, and what made it work?
That's a great question. I'm trying to go back into the vault. I think TCS is a really good one. I mean, I know
Yeah,
they, are in the major marathons, are very much in running, but they're, consulting and tech. And I think that the digital twin of the heart was just, it made a ton of sense. It was really fascinating. Um, and it's this project that can kind of like, I can always, if they want to do another year of it, you're like, yeah, I'm in for it. And you have all these other
yeah.
things. So like the story just continues to grow if that's something they want to, keep investing in. It's like kind of a no brainer because it just stacks and the story builds. And the more data you have, the better this model's going to be, which is cool to have that long term story. But they do a great job. And it's just cool how much they're into the running space and the fitness space.
Can you share more about what the digital twin is for those who aren't familiar, and
Yeah.
what you did with them?
Yeah, so the digital twin is basically a digital model of my heart, and, it's like this they basically put it into the, uh, most recent stages is, like, on the Apple goggles. Like, you can go and walk through and, like, open the heart up and, like, walk inside it and, like, see the different ventricles and, like, the heartbeat and all these different things. So it's an actual, model of my heart, and it was kind of an interesting pitch at first. It was like, "This is what we're doing," and I'm like, that's not real. And also, like, what are you gonna do with this data? Is it you gonna sell it? Where is it going? As obviously we worked all of that out and it made a ton of sense. Um, and it's been fascinating to see. But basically just went and got an MRI of my heart and then they used that MRI to kind of create this model. And recorded a bunch of different training data and then kind of plug that into the model to show, what that training actually does and to the heart throughout. And so it's just an interesting to see. One, just the training insights from where you started a segment and when they started collecting data to the end, you see the improvements and you get on the phone with the scientists and they're like, this, we know you're fitter because this is improved, this is improved, this is improved. And then there's long term like gains that have happened to like, well, your heart pumps blood like way more efficiently or like the ventricles are like much larger. It's not an enlarged heart, but you can tell you have an athlete's heart, not the condition, but like the benefits of it, long time endurance athlete, and we can see it because, this, and this. So it's just fascinating. And they do a much better job of explaining it than me.
Yeah, they're an interesting case study because as a consulting business, my understanding is for them it's really useful to like get bibs for New York and give those to customers, and a customer
Yeah.
to them is worth millions of dollars, many millions of dollars. And so they're less interested in like the 50,000 people who run New York, and they're more interested in like the 10 to 20 people that matter in the customer experience for them. Is that your understanding of that sponsorship as well?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a huge piece of it. I think there's probably a lot of different components, but the VIP experience of these major marathons for the folks that they work with um, just makes all the sense in the world. And so you can, I don't know how many of the Fortune 500, the top folks they have, but a large number of them are clients. And so they're
Right.
able to go to those clients and say, who do you want to run? And then just like, it's not just like, hey, here's a bib, go run. It's an experience from getting the right shoe on and the training program from day one and convincing these people that, yes, you can. And here's your community to help
Right.
you build. So at the end of it, you've built this like just incredible experience for a person. It's more than just, oh, here's like a whatever that you could tangibly give.
Right.
Here's a gift. It's like, here's an experience that is going to change your life probably. So yeah, the value in that's incredible.
So more broadly, why do you think non-endemic brands, so non-running brands, should care about endurance athletes? It's my whole like it's how I'm putting food on my table at this point.
Yeah.
So I'd love
Yeah.
love to hear your thoughts.
I mean, I think it's well, one, running's just growing like crazy right now. Like there's just a massive audience. There's so many different ways to do it. There's ways to race and to participate, and all of those things are awesome. I just think, the sport is one thing, but health and wellness paired with this experience is something really, really unique. And for me, it's like when you talk to a company and they're trying to pick between, Rob Gronkowski or Des Linden, and they're selling, I don't know, like a watch, a wearable. It's like Gronkowski's audience is massive, no doubt about it. He could probably move a ton, but like he, not a lot of people are looking on Sunday going, "Oh, I need that product for my football." Right? It's like, yeah,
Right. Yeah.
the wearable I'm wearing is something that you can take and use for your own performance, your own um, running. But not only is it that, it's your own health and wellness, and that running journey can be whatever you want. You don't have to be competing or pushing yourself or racing. It's just like this thing is going to resonate, and it's for a really, really great purpose of your own health and wellness.
Do you do a lot of pitching?
I really don't. I should do more. I think it would be a good exercise for me.
Do you do any, or it's mostly inbound that you get?
Mostly inbound. Yeah.
If you were to start doing some pitching, what are some categories that you would like to explore?
That's a good question. Um, I mean, I think that the butcher box thing was really interesting. There's definitely something in that space, even just like food and nutrition very broadly. Obviously, we have this, sports nutrition is probably oversaturated. But all the other stuff that we eat during the day and on that just nutrition side of it is fascinating and I think untapped. Yeah, I always think back of I feel like I was watching a master class or something and it was like Howard Schultz talking about if I were going to do a new company, I would create like
Yeah.
healthy food for a dog and he was just kind of riffing and it was like, oh, that's brilliant, and it's just like those riffing conversations where something clicks. But yeah, like even if you were like, oh, my training partner is my dog. So how do I give them the things that are going to make sure they stay healthy so that I have the training partner that's going to make my run go better? Something in that line might be interesting. Yeah.
I saw someone tweet, "Whoever makes peptides for dogs will be a billionaire."
Probably not
Howard
wrong. Yeah.
Schultz, the CEO of Starbucks, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Or founder of Starbucks.
Founder. Yeah.
Yeah, the Butcher Box piece was interesting. I went live with Good Ranchers like 2 weeks after you
Nice.
guys
Yeah.
launched Butcher Box, and the conversation I had with the marketing person over there, Brad, he was like, "Yeah, this makes sense. Like, who better to eat red meat than female runners, right? It's like,
Right.
how
No
do we,
brainer.
how do we, yeah, how do we find these things that are like such a bullseye no brainer? And I'm curious if you've found this as well. So with the data that I've seen on my own campaigns and the feedback I've had with the brands that I've worked with, it's a really slow ramp up for non-endemics, whereas endemic partnerships will take off like immediately if there's really strong fit and then tail off,
Hmm.
whereas the non-endemics start much slower, but then they grow a lot larger and there's a longer tail there. Are you seeing similar things with the partnerships you're doing?
Yeah, like one that jumps out is Olipop, which I don't think is, it's not a natural fit for running, but it actually made a ton of sense. And yeah, as we introduced that to our audience, it was a little bit like, do we need soda? And then you start talking a little bit more about the benefits and just ways to implement it into a routine or why it's nice versus other alternatives. And then you see once it gets a little bit of traction, yeah, kind of took off from there. Um, Lagoon's a little bit like that too. And it is, it's like, here's a pillow. Were you really in the market for one of those? Do you really need one of those for your running? But once we have the knowledge, and that's one thing that's always like, I want to use the product first. I want to make sure that I can like stand behind this, put my name on it, talk about it in an educated way. And so I think it's a little bit of like us getting familiar with it as well. Like, well, it took a little bit to feel like yeah, I like the pillow, but what are the benefits? And then you see them, and then you can start talking about them in a more educated way. And so you're almost like maybe a little bit more runway to know the product and learn the product would help accelerate it earlier, but I don't think that matters necessarily.
The lagoon example is interesting. I had Ryan on the podcast last summer, and we had a fascinating conversation. And I love how supportive he's been of the running community. And I don't mean that in just like clap, clap, you guys are awesome. He's like paying people,
Yeah,
a lot of people, and it's clearly working because people like he keeps renewing these contracts, and like the pillow is $100. I have three of them or four of
right,
them. It's comfortable, but it's something you buy once or twice, or maybe more if you have a guest room, but then you don't buy it again.
right.
And so it's got to be like there's got to be such penetration in the audience for it to make sense. Like, are you guys selling a lot of pillows?
I don't know the numbers, but he always seems pretty happy with us. We'll put it
Yeah.
at that. So, um, like he hasn't called us and been like, "Change up how you're doing the ads," or "Let's try something new." Like I think our audience is just freaking awesome. Like the
Yeah,
Nobody Asked Us podcast audience is just super loyal. We were like, hey, we're putting on this 10K race and we'd love if you would support. And we're figuring out ways how we started with the virtual run, but that thing went crazy. And then also it was just people being like, yes, let me give you money. We're like, well, we don't have a like way to set that up yet. Like, hold on, pump the brakes. And they're like, no, we want to send you money now. So they're just crazy supportive and it's really, really cool. So we're very fortunate to have that. And there's also a level of responsibility in like what we're willing to partner with. Like, I don't want to be shilling stuff for the sake of a deal. I want that really loyal listener base and group of people who are going to buy these products to get something that they get value from as well. So that's super important.
definitely. You mentioned the measurement. How do you handle that? Do you talk about what is success? How are you kicking off these partnerships with the brands and understanding what a successful campaign looks like so that you can build it?
Yeah, I mean, we could be way more intentional about markers around that and goals and objectives. I think we've had good success, and we throw our number out, and I think when you use like something like CPMS, I don't even know the language around it, but companies that aren't familiar with us will be like, that's so high for us. Like no one's charging that rate, and you're like, yeah, I promise you, like let's do one shorter deal so that you can see if this works or not. Let's do one at this price or, maybe it's 3 episodes you can see it build. And I don't think we've had a single brand come back and be like, "No, this doesn't work." Like they've been like, "Oh, understood. We see." So, that's been helpful, but putting metrics on it would be nice.
Yeah, I love that. I have sold at CPMs ranging from 100 to 1,000, and I've renewed with the brand that was at 1,000 because
Yeah,
it ultimately like a small show or a high quality audience breaks the CPM math, or if you have an expensive product. So like I've done deals with solar companies and a car dealership, and like 7 sales equated
right,
$350,000, and I got paid $20,000 on that deal,
right.
and it's 13x return on ad spend, which is like you just keep adding fuel to that fire. And so I love that you're going into it with like let us show you what we can do for you, and trust us in a pilot, and the math will math. But yeah,
Yeah,
for context, for people who are listening, like $50 CPM is like a quality niche premium CPM. Many of the large podcasts are doing deals in the like 12 to $30 CPM if the deals are being brokered by an agency that's just buying scale, whereas a host read integrated, the host talking about it, like $100 is reasonable enough to start with, depending on what the product is. And then like if it's a software platform or something with recurring revenue, you can justify $200 CPM if you can demonstrate that, if you pay $10,000 and you return them $30,000, like they'll do that all day.
right. Yeah.
What type of brands do you really like working with? Like, are there specific categories that make more sense for you? Is it that higher price product, or is it Olipop where people are buying it monthly? What what is at the intersection of like something you like and what you've seen to be successful?
That's a good question. I mean, I think all of its stuff, I I like all of the partners we have equally, so that really helps. And I think it's really the ability to not be forced into doing anything a certain way. I think
Yeah.
every one of our partners, it's like, we don't really want to do ad reads. Like, I don't want you to send me a script and say, read this at this point in the show. And this is exactly what the words are. We've had one partner like that, and I don't think we'll renew. And not for no other reason, just it just didn't make sense. But I like that the like creativity of it, where it's like anybody who's willing to let us just talk about the product and riff on it, because one, it means they trust us. Two, it means that we actually use and love and like the product and can talk about it freely. So Ketone's been a great partner that way. And I think that's a fun one because it's a tough sell. Like, what is this thing? What does it do? People want to know how it makes you feel. They get it, and they're like, "I don't feel anything." And it's like, stick with me. It's not necessarily that you're going to feel this. It's that you won't feel that, or like, there's all kinds of different ways to use it. So I just like that we're not being pigeonholed into read this script and say this thing. It's like, let me give you my experiences in an authentic way. And most of our brands on the pod are very open with us doing that.
I was going to bring up ketone because of how you've talked about it, what we've talked about privately about it, and the benefit for people with ADHD, the benefit for cognitive health and long term cognitive health. Like, how do you think about something like that where, like, I want everyone to use that product because it feels awesome to me when I take it, and I'm bummed that I was out and we couldn't cheers right before this because normally I take one
Yeah.
prior to podcasts because it like I'm
Yeah.
dialed and it like really dials in the see, you can tell I didn't take it. I can't think of the word focus.
Yeah.
um, how do you think about that one where like the long-term benefits, the behind the scenes research that they're doing, and but like you don't want to get on a soapbox and be like everyone should take this because it's really good for you. Like how do you reconcile the like I want everyone to take this, but you don't want to be like a salesperson for the brand or a
Yeah.
billboard for the brand?
I mean, I think
Or
that's
maybe you
where, like,
do, I don't know.
authentic use comes in. It's like you can tell the people who just signed the deal and they're like, "Yeah, energy," and that's all they
Right.
can
Yeah,
speak on,
take
like
this
the ones
before I
they read,
run.
or
Yeah.
like they read the back of the bottle and gives you 2 hours of sustained focus, and you're
Right.
like, You're not using it," which is fine. Like, I think people should try things out and see what makes sense for them. But for me, it's just that goes back to, like, I actually genuinely use the product. I take it during runs, you take it for recovery. There's all these different ways that I use it, and so it's like to be able to talk about it in different ways, I think is super helpful. Um, and also knowing that it's not gonna be for everyone. That's okay too, right? Like, a lot of people come back and be like, "I didn't feel anything." It's like, save your money. Like, that's totally fine. It's not for everyone. But I think people can tell when you're telling real stories and you're really actually invested in using the product. I also think that I love the stuff they're doing behind the scenes. I think the research into sports nutrition and like brain health, I think the brain health side is really the thing that's going to set them apart. Um, so I want to stay on the train for as long as possible. So when they really get the research out there and um, are able to share these different ways that being used in science. And for my dad has Parkinson's, and so it's like, are there benefits, are there connections, are there preventative things, and things like that. I think, being on the front end of it and being like, I believed in them when I just heard these stories, and now we've connected dots. I think it will be really cool, and I do think we'll see some of that come out of that camp.
Yeah, the authenticity piece is huge. Parkinson's is awful. Both of my grandfathers had it, and to just watch the cognitive decline, I was dying to be able to do something about it. And if there's even a 10% improvement or 20% improvement potential, like I want to scream that from the
Right.
rooftops. So I've been eager to or eagerly following along with what's going on behind the scenes and can't wait for them to validate some of their thoughts around that.
Yeah.
And sorry to hear your dad is going through that as well. It's terrible.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you.
What categories do you think are most underrated for running podcasts, running media, athletes, from a potential partnership standpoint? Like, who is not playing in the space yet? Who should be?
Yeah, we see a lot of things in athlete podcasts, with banks and like money management services.
Triathlon, yeah,
Yeah. And I think, in running and marathoning, I haven't seen it in a ton of places, but you do. I mean, you have Bank of America, as a title sponsor. I know there's a few in the European space. There's probably, thinking of actually not European, but comrades, right? Big banks
yep,
of
South Africa.
sponsoring teams. I'm sure in Europe as well. So I think that that's a fascinating one, and obviously I've done some deals with Bank of America here and there, and they certainly have the money. So, and I think conversations like this, it's a natural fit, or conversations where we're talking about athlete contracts and money management, and you get into advice with agents and contracts and deals. Like it would be a kind of a natural fit there. But yeah, I think that would be a fascinating one. I'm sure there's tons that I'm not even thinking of that. Like, oh yeah, that makes so much sense.
Yeah, travel in cars also. So to speak on South Africa for a moment, I spoke with the race director of Ultra Trail Cape Town,
Mm,
and he was saying that having a bank sponsor is like table stakes there, or not table stakes. It's like, okay, your race has made it. Like now
yeah.
you're at the level that you have a bank sponsor. So it's fascinating that that's the barometer of success. I just kicked off working with the Trail House Colorado, which is a
Yeah.
project of four post collegiate athletes who are aspiring professional trail runners, and Hyperlight, Lever, and Wind Republic are putting this on. I'm helping with partnerships. And I wrote a Substack on it and made a specific ask for banks and financial institutions, or connections to
Mm.
banks or financial institutions, because I was like, somebody has to talk to these 25-year-olds about personal finances like my dad talked to me when I was 10, and explained the time value of money. And like, this happened to me when I was 10, and it put me in the position I'm in now, which is great because of something that my dad did for me when I was 10. And so, like, how do we create an environment like that where Fidelity Investments or Alpine Bank or some Bank of the West or Bank of America, whoever is telling that story, both behind the scenes from an educational standpoint, and then the athletes are telling the story of like, hey, I learned about, how running and workouts compound. Like, if you put $100 a month away for 10 years, here's what it could happen. If you run 75 miles a week for 10 years, here's what like, the analogy could not be more crystal clear
Yeah.
and aligned. Like, we must make that happen.
I mean, I think like just the financial literacy in general in America
Right.
is problematic. But yeah, I mean, obviously with, you know, younger kids coming out of college, and you see professional athletes all the time in the big sports, and they're broke in a couple years. Runners, you don't even have like the money to go buy something cool,
To
and then you're
waste.
like,
Yeah.
yeah, at the risk of being broke anyhow. So it's like I do wish there was a resource for that, and I don't know why I wish it. Like we really should be doing something, because it's not a tough thing to teach. I think you could get it across pretty quickly. Or hey, here's a pack of 3 books that you have to read, and then be on your way. But just yeah, making sure that those young kids signing deals or trying to get off their feet, um, you shouldn't go completely broke or be starting from zero because you tried to pursue this opportunity, or just find out how good you could be, and you're going to have to figure out at some point. So you might as well get started early.
Yeah, I was having a conversation with Kelly Newland about this, and we were wondering if there was an opportunity again for like a Fidelity or one of these companies to partner with like a VF or Deckers, or a company that has a portfolio, Brooks, a company that has a portfolio of brands, or a brand that has a bunch of athletes, and as a differentiator from other contracts, like, you include financial literacy, and the
Right.
brand earmarks, $10,000 to this athlete that must go towards a retirement account.
Yeah.
or a brokerage account. And like imagine the differentiator of, okay, it's only quote unquote only, $10,000 a year. But like if you're investing $10,000 a year for 10 years, that becomes a meaningful amount of money after 25, 30 years. So you get these kids that are 21, 22 years old, and maybe they have the opportunity for their brand to be contributing an extra 10K to them that turns into $1 million by the time they're ready to retire. And then all of a sudden they're not broken, but they're like in a strong situation. So, okay,
Yeah.
if anybody's listening, has a connection to a
Yeah.
bank or financial services company, hit Des and I up, and
Yeah.
we'll
We need like an
we'll make it go the
acorns.
distance.
Acorns, or I feel like Mr. Wonderful has like a service that like every time you spend, it takes the change and puts it in an account. Like you don't even really notice it. But yeah, I think that would be incredible. And it's not even so much about like it is the money. Obviously, that's a big part of it. But just seeing the process and be like, oh, like I can wrap my mind around this because year one, seemed stupid, but now I'm at year
Right.
4 and I'm starting to, you get a little baby glimpse and you're like now I understand the whys and the hows. And then you put in the calculators and you're like, oh shit, like but if you never start, you don't grasp that. Right.
How does YouTube play into all of this for you? How are you using that platform to tell your story, grow your audience, and continue to add value to the brands that you're working with?
Yeah. That was all credit to Brooks in that one. Cause I was like, I don't want to be a YouTuber. like I don't see any value in this. This is like, I don't want a camera in my face, but they were pretty excited about that space. And it was definitely a spot in negotiations that I knew was a bit of a lever that I could really turn a lot. And so, um, I leaned in there and was like, okay, if I'm going to do this, I want to do it well. So let's, make sure that I have the budget to do it. And actually, I've come to really enjoy it because there's so many different ways to do it. And I think, Twitter's obviously gone away. X is not what it used to be. Threads is its own space. Blue Sky, like it's everything's so like broken up. So it's kind of like
Disjointed,
Instagram.
yeah.
Yeah, like Instagram. I think Substack coming back, or not coming back, but really going to be surging. But YouTube just seems as strong as ever, and if not, like just kind of getting exponentially bigger. It just seems like everyone's jumping on there. But I think there's so many ways to do it. And you can vlog and you can do I'm going to carry my camera, I'm going to talk into it and do something every day. But what I found that I really enjoy is just like these long form stories. And so I pick 2 to 3 events a year and say, this is like the story that I think is going to be interesting. I don't know what exactly it will be, but I get to build out my team. How do I want to cover it? Do we want to do it in episodes? Do we want to do it as a long form? And I actually really enjoy crafting that. Like I think I would be equally happy crafting that for someone else and not being the subject, but for now I'm the subject, and I see the value for the brand too. It's like every time I'm posting and you get people captivated by a story and you're like, I could actually build this if I did this more frequently or plugged in with, some of the vlog stuff in the middle. So starting to think about it more as a tool that could extend, what I'm doing and allow me to go run fun places and share stories. And that's kind of like where the phase I'm at in my career anyhow.
That's the dream, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like, oh, you want to pay for me to do an adventure? Great. I'm in.
Yeah. Here's my airline ticket and
Yeah.
the fee to make it happen. What does the creative process look like for you when you're storyboarding this, when you're thinking through the story that you want to tell?
It's been different for each one, and I feel like it's kind of yeah, it's been fun to learn it and figure it out. I don't have a great process yet. I know what's important to me, like the event that I'm doing. I figure out who exactly I want to work with, see if I have the money to work with them, and then I've kind of gone to the same people now. Well, Dills did Western States Camp, Western States, and then he did MDS. So like he's just a really fun guy to work with, and we have good communication, and I trust him quite a bit. So we're out in the desert kind of developing it as we go. We've had a bunch of calls prior, but I think some of this stuff is like, I don't know, we're not going to know until we get there. Or something like the 50 miler I was going to do last fall. so much of it was going to happen at the race, and then you run into an injury. Um, and it was a big pivot, and you're like, do we have anything? Do we have enough to make something? And then, worked with the team and figured it out. So some of it's having a plan and knowing like this is how I want it to look and this is how I want it to go. But I think it's also about really being nimble and then trusting the people that are behind the camera, capturing the content.
Who else are you watching in the media space that you're looking to as inspiration, or like they're doing it well?
Yeah. I mean, YouTube specifically or media in general?
Broadly, yeah.
Yeah, that's a good question. I really I always try to go outside of running because I think that's the stuff where you're like, oh, I think we could bring that back. Formula One is great. I think all the
Yeah.
pieces around it, obviously everyone goes straight to the Netflix, but I think each individual team, the way they highlight their athletes before a race, Red Bull did it really, really well for the last couple
Yeah.
years. I think, Daniel Ricciardo was like a gold mine. It was like he's amazing personality, super fun, and a fantastic driver. So that was like their content was just great. And then I think it's Off Ball is an Instagram that just kind of popped up recently. Maybe it's been around for a while, but I think there's this interesting like culture, sports, fashion, and it's not even like dialed into. I mean, I think it's supposed to be more basketball focused, but it doesn't feel that way anymore. It's just really kind of blown up. They did a fun. I don't remember what Formula One race it was, but they actually did a chat where like they invited a certain number of people to what's the chat program that if you're overseas, everyone WhatsApp. I never use
What's
it.
up? Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like a WhatsApp, like I think sponsored piece. And it was like certain a number of people got invited and Daniel Ricciardo was just like live chatting the Formula One race. And like these fans got to like participate.
That's
So
cool.
that was a pretty cool way to do it. And yeah, that channel kind of, I think, was the catalyst behind it. So they've been interesting to follow. Um, yeah.
Red Bull does some really fascinating stuff on the media side. I found myself watching a 9-minute video of a Red Bull driver driving up Pikes Peak the other day. There was no commentary. It was just like shots from the inside the car and off the front of the car, and I was captivated. I was like, "This is incredible to
Yeah.
watch," and nobody was talking for 9 minutes.
That's
They do
impressive.
great stuff.
I've always wondered
Yeah.
if you could do like you could do it with trail, I'm sure, but like a really cool run that's visually captivating and like, draws you in, but like almost like a music video, like
So
same type of thing.
So I went to a media show last year, Outdoor Media Summit, and one of the speakers was saying, we were specifically talking about YouTube, or he was talking about YouTube in this presentation, and he was saying he does every year he does a compilation of all of his hikes. He's like a hiking creator,
Okay.
and he publishes like a 4 hour, um, just like with audio with music over it, and it's just
Yeah.
beautiful landscape. And he said the one that he published a couple years ago like popped off and has millions of views, and
Wow.
that single video has made him $114,000, which he like showed on the screen just from the
Legit.
one four
Yeah.
hour video. And it's like it's crazy. It's just this montage of beautiful trails.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's where so much trail running is amazing, but like you look at like a Jim Walmsley or a Courtney DeWalter or like some of these people that have performed really well, and it's so easy to see why their content is just you want to be following them, you want to be keeping up. It's like yes, the running's really fascinating, but you're always doing it somewhere fucking epic, right?
I was I was gonna ask about this, and you led straight into it. The difference between road versus trail content. Trail content is much more similar to like surfing versus road running, in that road running you're running through cities and towns, and it can be beautiful in its own right, but doesn't have that like visual stimulus of like this is gorgeous. How do you plan, or do you specifically focus on that aspect of it now versus when you were making or in more road focused documentary videos?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a factor now, and I guess I haven't like fully mapped out what makes sense, what I'm interested, what I'm looking for, but I'm very aware of that. And I think MDS was kind of the first, you know, time I knew that was going to factor into the story. And you see the stuff from MDS every year, and you're like, wow, that's cool. I want to go be running in that, And I felt that looking at other people's content. So it was like, how do we capture this and make people like kind of have that FOMO? Like, I want to be there. I want to be doing it. Like that is bringing me in. And so I thought that was MDS would be a slam dunk just because it's so unusual and it's taking you a place, that you're not probably going like most people aren't going to get to. And so that seemed quite an easy thing to place in. I think it does factor into races I want to do, but also there's like the whole it doesn't have to be a race. Like it doesn't always have to be about performance, like maybe it's going to run a cool trail that's rarely done, or maybe it's an FKT if you want to add some speed to it, but that visual part of it, um, for content for sure, but also for myself. Like that's kind of what I want to be doing now. Like I want to go
Yeah.
places that are different and unique and that I want to go and enjoy while I'm out there, whether it's just running or suffering. It'll be part of like what gets me out there and motivated to be there.
Do you think about the role that you can play in getting more people onto trail, right? You have a large platform and you're demonstrating your transition to trails. More broadly, a lot of people are trail curious. We've seen brands that are historically road brands, like a Tracksmith, for example, launch trail lines and to varying successes. Do you think about your your role in that conversation, and if that can be another kind of niche within a niche?
Honestly, it makes me a little uncomfortable because I think trails growing so quickly. There are people who've been in this space for a long time. It has its identity, it has its culture, and I do feel like an outsider who's stepping in and want to be cautious of how I enter and what that may or may not do to the space. Like I think it's fascinating to watch it just grow so much so quickly. And I wouldn't want to be like someone who brought over an audience and then all of a sudden like I don't know, and it's probably giving myself too much credit, but also all of a sudden it's like, oh well,
No,
like
an
Des did
appropriate
MDS, and
amount of
now
yeah,
now it's selling out and it's all Americans, and like it's really changed the vibe,
yeah.
right?
I see what
Like
you mean. Yeah,
it's a balancing act. I do think, and I think this is we've had a back and forth about this, but I think this is where gravel could be interesting, right? Like trails have a capacity, and it takes like a little bit of take you have to be fairly well funded to get there. Um, Gravel's not trail, but it's something different. It's getting outside. You're going to see these dirt gravel roads all through middle America where people, could afford to get out more, to get running more, to go explore their own outdoors more, to see the beauty in that. So I think there is something to that. And maybe that's where I'm more valuable in saying like, hey, let's go run some gravel roads. Let's go out and figure out like what is the unbound of running. The unbound, the race is the gravel bike race, or those types of things, and see if we can't create that to almost relieve the stress of what is on the trails, because like that's going to get so hard to get into some of those races, and the trails aren't getting bigger like
it's
themselves,
yeah. It's already hard to get into. Already
Yeah,
hard to get
yeah.
into races. Is that something that you would see yourself aligning with Brooks to activate?
Anybody, anybody who would have me, I
Yeah.
think, I think if Brooks was interested in it and I could, push them on it and get the right people around it to create something, it would be amazing. But it doesn't, I think it's doesn't have to be. I think it's someone like Tim Tollefson who created the Mammoth Trail Fest, and he has his sponsor, and then he has a sponsor of his race, and it's like, hey, you have this opportunity, but I understand if it doesn't work for you, that's totally fine. But will you be good with me working with someone else on this piece? And so that's an interesting model. I think it's tough. It would be a tough sell. But it's been done. So it's nice to have that as a template out there.
So for context, Des and I went back and forth on the utility, or more specifically the need for a gravel shoe, and changed my perspective on it when she shared that, like, or pointed out that most of the country does not have access to like proper trails as we know it here in Boulder, Colorado. But there's plenty of gravel, there's plenty of dirt accessible for the majority of people that don't live in New York or other cities. Um, and so like a crossover shoe that can do road or trail or gravel specifically then becomes like a much more useful tool than a trail shoe for a brand that many running retailers carry a limited amount, maybe 20% of their shoes are trail shoes. And the percentage of shoes that they sell is heavily weighted to road. Maybe there's a way to buffer that a little bit and have gravel kind of play some role there. Solomon is doing some interesting stuff with their gravel shoes as well.
Yeah, yeah, I've seen that kinda coming out. I think they're doing a good job with it, and it'll be interesting. I would love to see a space kind of pop up, and I just think we're at a time where finding new ways to compete and new ways to participate, that's the future. I mean, you're seeing the unsanctioned races, those are getting crazy, or, obviously the majors are selling out like crazy, trails getting bigger, and it just feels like everything's at capacity, so, like, where does this thing
Yeah.
bubble up to? And if we don't, I think if you create something, people will go. But if we don't, like, do we lose them? Do they find, I think I read an article, it's like calisthenic clubs are the new run club. Like, okay, do they go that route? Like, I don't know. I don't know if there's anything on the line or not, but it would be great. It seems like people have this need to be a part of a community. So that would be a cool thing to build out.
I think the risk is people aren't active. And to your point, like middle America or not, that people on the coasts stand to be more active as well. And there's a lack of movement crisis, I would say, happening in our country. And we're we're spending billions of dollars on personalized wellness, and lifespan is not getting longer. So we're doing something wrong as a society, and movement is certainly a fundamental piece of how we change, even with Parkinson's and dementia and these cognitive challenges that so many people are facing. Like, one of the antidotes can be movement. And I specifically remember both of my grandfathers, like, it was the most important thing for them to be active. And I did a lot of reading, and like one of the best ways to stave off these bad things from happening to us, go figure, is to stay active. So
Right.
the more people that can do the thing, whether it's pickleball or running on gravel or whatever, I think the better.
Yeah. Well, and that's like kind of full circle. And why should these non-endemics be thinking about running? And maybe it's bigger than that. Maybe it's just like what's movement, right? Let's get people started. Let's get people up, and I don't see how you could lose on that because we could all benefit from it.
Definitely. What advice or guidance do you have for a current athlete who's looking to take the leap into telling their story and trying to do more than um, only focus on competition?
Yeah, I mean, I think get started. It's just like everything else. Like, how do I get
Yeah.
into running? Sign up for something, get a pair of shoes, whatever. Like, just
Right.
get started. I think the other thing is like figure out what you like consume content. Don't let that hold you back. I think a lot of people start seeing it and it's like, well, I want to be here before I start, or I want to have that thing put in place. Like, you can set your goals for things that you want to reach eventually, or styles you like that you want to get to. But just get started. And yeah, even with, like, the phone at yourself, or, carrying your own camera, and it's fun to watch people's process of getting better editing and, color grading and doing the music and all of that stuff too. Like, you look at early Peter McKinnon, uh, content, and you're like, "Wow, he's not very good at this," and then you see the progression and you're like, "Wow," like, "Oh, that's just hard work and practice and making content." It's just like you're running. So, I think just get started and try to work on one thing each video, or one thing each Substack post, or whatever it is, and figure out what you like too.
Consistency compounds.
Love that.
finance jokes aside, one thing I've noticed lately is a lot more athletes have gotten into angel investing and spending both their capital and their influence on brands and properties that they want to get behind. Is this something that's been a curiosity of yours, and have you begun to explore that angle as well?
I've worked at a few different brands and I've had a few different deals where, you can pitch equity. Like, okay, we're just getting started, we can't pay you, and you believe in it, you see what they're doing. Um, Good hard workers, good vision. It's like, okay, like I'm happy to do that here. And it's fun. It's fun when you have a little bit of skin in the game too. I think you post a little extra, you talk about it a little bit more, you care a little bit more.
Right.
I think a lot of those don't work out, and that's okay. It's kind of like you take your occasional lottery ticket, and if it hits, like it's great, but you don't count on that when you get into it. It's just like, okay, this will be cool if it does work out. Um, but yeah, I mean, I think, you want to get the fundamentals first, get the base down first, and make sure you're doing the things that, are solid. And then when you get to a place where you can start taking some chances, that's a great way to do it. And um, just be a little bit more involved and a little bit more invested in the actual company and what they're doing, which is cool. And I think it's a good way to learn, good way to learn about companies. It's a good way to learn about investing and just have a touch point with a different brand in a different way.
For sure. Okay, last question. I'm going to put you on the spot. One brand you haven't worked with that you would love to work with.
Oh, Yeti coolers. How about that?
Why?
Their storytelling's phenomenal. I think their YouTube's really cool. You go there and you don't realize you're watching a commercial. Like it's just cool people doing cool things, and they happen to have a cooler, um, or whatever they're using from Yeti. And I love their stuff. I watched a fishing video with they took a professional skier, a female professional skier, and this top guide, fishing guide in Florida, and they went tarpon fishing, and it just worked. It made so much sense, and just like I watched a 25-minute
Sick.
video on
Yeah.
tarpon fishing, and it was an advertisement. The whole thing's an advertisement, but I loved it.
Yeah.
So they do a great job. And I'm not really passionate about coolers, but I could make it work.
Have you pitched them?
I have not. No, I should dig into that and look at the right team and the right people to reach out to. Um, I did wear a Montana knife hat during MDS. We had a buddy who was working with them, and he was trying to connect us to the, I don't know, the CMO or something. So he sent us a bunch of stuff, and he was kind of going through some health stuff. So he sent down this hat, and it said, "Run with knives." And I wore it for MDS because he was sick, and like it was a very nice gesture before he was taking off to like get healthy, and he actually passed away right before the race, but wore the hat. A
Oh,
lot of
well.
people noticed it and were asking about it. But they're a company that's doing cool stuff too. You don't need a ton of knives, but they're in America, American manufacturing, and just doing cool things. So not sure I could make that
I'll bet
partnership
if
stick, but
yeah, I'll bet if you DM'd Yeti, you would very quickly get to the right person.
I should do it. That'll be my first tackle of a pitch. I'll let you
Uh,
know how it goes.
That's your homework for
Yeah,
today. Yeah.
yeah.
Des, this has been a blast. I can't wait till you come out to Colorado and we run some trails out here, or we link up in Chamonix or California or Michigan or somewhere
It's
here
gonna
in the near
happen.
future.
Yeah, it's gonna
It's gonna
happen.
happen.
Well, thanks for having me.
Awesome.
Appreciate it.
Of course. Likewise.